What hobby can be done cheaply, but is full of snobs? You could get a fully functional remote control airplane for $100 and it'll fly fine. It'll teach you how to keep it airborne, it'll survive your inevitable wrecks, and it'll be great fun while you own it. Show up to any kind of hobby meet with a $100 foam plane, and no one will take you seriously. Apparently, you don't know how to fly unless you invest thousands into basically the same design.
I had a friend who got one of those foam planes. He had a blast with it, really enjoyed flying around at the park. But when he went to a meet, folks just brushed him off. It was kind of funny to see how serious everyone was about the hobby. In the end, he didn't care. He was just happy flying, and that's what mattered. Sometimes, keeping it simple is more fun.
Airsoft. If you have access to camo, good shooting glasses, and good boots, you can usually rent a gun at the field. A lot of the more serious types will have a whole bunch of guns they will talk about, plus spend oodles on MREs, camping gear, vests, holsters, more guns, etc. etc. It gets kind of prissy.
Yeah, I've seen that vibe. It's interesting how some people take Airsoft to another level, turning it into this whole gear fest. You've got the casual players just there for fun, and then the ones who treat it like a military operation. I remember my friend got super into collecting gear. It was like a mini arms race at the field, while I just showed up with rented stuff, ready to just play.
Coffee. I'm a huge coffee fan who makes their own coffee and the like. It is true that expensive coffee tastes really good, but hey, if you don't know how to make it, it will taste terrible anyway. You can still get a good cup of coffee without paying a lot for it. At the end of the day, if you make a cup you like, it does not matter how much you pay for it. What matters is how it tastes. Edit, typo.
I get that. I have a friend who's really into coffee too. He spends a lot on fancy beans but always insists that what matters is how you brew it. Once, he made me this cheap coffee from a local shop, and it honestly tasted better than some expensive stuff I've tried. It's funny how much effort people put into finding the perfect cup, when sometimes you just need to know what you like.
Paintball. You can buy a good mask and play with rental gear and jeans and a hoodie for the rest of your life. Or you can drop $1,000 on a gun, hopper, and tank, another $500 on special pants and matching shirt and cleats, plus another $300 or so on other miscellaneous items. And that's not even top-tier stuff, just really good stuff. If you really feel the need to, buy a new, good mask, a used gun and hopper, and an HPA tank.
Paintball can get pretty expensive. Some folks just want to have fun, so they stick with rental gear. Others go all in, dropping serious cash on high-end gear and custom outfits. I had a friend who spent a ton on his setup. He said it made him play better, but honestly, I think it was just about looking cool on the field. In the end, it's all about how much you enjoy the game.
Yeah, you can get some real good stuff for a nice price. That being said, it also depends on what you're looking for. You can't compare an English breakfast to a high-grade gyokuro. They're nothing alike, nor do they serve the same purpose. But like most people in the community of serious drinkers, 9 times out of 10 a tea bag won't give you good tea. They're convenient, so sometimes a necessary evil.
I get that. Tea choices can be pretty personal. I once tried to switch from cheap tea bags to loose leaf, and it really changed things. I used to think all tea was just tea, but there's definitely a difference in flavor and quality. It's funny how a simple drink can lead to a deeper appreciation for what you're drinking. Sometimes it's worth the effort to get the good stuff.
Track days. From personal experience, motorcycle track days. You'll have people like me and my friends who already spent a few thousand on gear, fees for the day, and owning a motorcycle. Then you have guys who ride track only bikes worth $40K, plus tire warmers, new tires every 4 days, fresh oil, and water wetter every track day. Towing their bikes up on rigs more expensive than my house. Sometimes it's friendly, usually you're just looked at like a waste of a spot at the track.
Track days are interesting. You see a mix of riders. Some have spent a lot on gear in their bikes, while others bring out high-end machines that are just for the track. It creates a vibe where you feel out of place sometimes. Most guys are friendly, but you can definitely sense the hierarchy when it comes to experience and equipment. It's like a different world out there.
Getting fit in general. Now you need the special sexy, cool workout clothes and mats and water bottles and memberships and classes and technology, and it never ends. It's alluring though. Something about getting all geared up and looking like a champ helps put a bit of pep in your step. But it sucks I used to be able to work out in a baggy old tee and stretchy pants, and now I feel like I have to buy a tight pink workout tank and sexy yoga pants and maybe even makeup. Uneasy face. Peer pressure is weird.
I get that. It's funny how things change. I remember just throwing on whatever was lying around and hitting the gym. Now it feels like there's this whole fashion game to play. Sometimes I just want to go back to being comfortable. It's like you're not only lifting weights but also the pressure to look good while doing it. Makes it harder to just work out and enjoy it.
Scrapbooking or paper crafting. Good lord, is that crap expensive. You can make some really awesome stuff, cards, etc., from what you have lying around the house, but God forbid you try to post it anywhere. Related, I have a Cricut machine, and it's like all of a sudden everyone is in the vinyl business. Cute monogram cups? Yep. Fancy wood blocks with sayings on them? MMHMM. Glass blocks with quotes and little fairy lights inside? You betcha. I just love reading all their posts about how they scored 50 plastic cups from Walmart for only $2 a piece. Yes, I have $100 to drop on some shitty plastic Walmart cups. Sure, I didn't need cat food this week.
Yeah, I get it. Scrapbooking can really empty your wallet. You think you're just having fun, but then you realize all those little supplies add up. It's wild how everyone jumps on the same trends too. Like those vinyl cups. It's like a race to see who can spend the most on the same items. Meanwhile, I'm here trying to justify every dollar spent on basic necessities. Cats come first, right?
Card magic. Trust me, I love all you serious magicians and how talented and dedicated you are to your art. I respect the profession and how great of a tradition it is. But at the end of the day, a magic trick is a magic trick whether you spent $4 on a deck of cards or $600 on a levitating machine.
I get that. A magic trick is just that, a trick. My buddy once showed up with a simple deck of cards and amazed us for hours. No fancy gear, just a few sleights of hand. It was all about the presentation. Everyone was laughing and guessing how he did it. Sometimes, it's not about the cost or the tools, just the fun of sharing a moment.
Makeup. A lot of people turn their nose up to drugstore makeup, but in reality, it doesn't matter which products you use, it's how you use them. Edit. Not necessarily saying drugstore is just as good as high-end, but I see a lot of people just getting into makeup who think they have to have high-end to look good. You can make a great look in any price range with the proper skill set.
I once had a friend who was really into makeup. She would always emphasize that it wasn't about the brand but how you applied it. We'd spend hours experimenting with different looks using both high-end and drugstore products. In the end, it was her technique that made all the difference. She taught me that confidence can really elevate your look, no matter what products you use.
Collecting watches. I've been into this hobby for about 20 years. They can be found used at yard sales cheap for 50 cents or mechanicals that cost thousands to $1 million plus. You can spend minuscule money and walk away perfectly happy, and another collector wouldn't piss on it if it were on fire. The snobs even refer to themselves as snobs in this hobby. See Ask Men websites, the Watch Snob. Another fun channel to watch with this same snob attitude is Archie Luxury.
Collecting watches sounds pretty interesting. It's wild how you can find a decent piece at a yard sale for next to nothing, while some collectors chase after the high-end stuff. I guess that snobby attitude is just part of some hobbies. It's like a different world with different values. I get the appeal, but I'm more into just enjoying what I have, whether it's a cheap find or something more expensive.
For men, suits. I was surprised to learn there are entire forums dedicated to classical menswear, full of elitist pricks who will demand you spend $4,000 plus on a custom, handmade bespoke suit made of the finest wool, tailored on Savile Row, and will then nitpick the final result to hell and back. All I wanted was advice on pairing shirts and ties.
I once asked a buddy for style advice, thinking it would be chill. Instead, he went into this long rant about thread count and lapel width. He even pulled out a bunch of fancy magazines. I just wanted to know if a blue tie went with my gray shirt. Sometimes, simple advice is harder to find than you'd think. Just keep it easy, you know?
There's an eternal saying in my country, all the gear and no idea. Having basic kit, skiing, snorkeling, hunting, hiking spring immediately to mind, and being damn good at what you're doing gets you plenty of respect. Having all of the flashiest gear available and being completely hopeless just makes you look like a knob.
I think we all know someone like that. A buddy of mine bought top-of-the-line fishing gear, but couldn't catch a thing. He spent more time untangling his lines than actually fishing. It was kind of funny, but we all had a laugh. In the end, we enjoyed the day more than the catch. Just goes to show, skills matter more than fancy tools.
I like to fly stuff. I'm not a modeler. I don't build anything. I open the box, plug in the battery, and enjoy. Apparently, I'm not a real rSlash guy because I don't build it myself. I try to go to a local field with my RTF planes. The amount of snobbery I was met with was amusing to me. If I dump them onto the ground, I can just scrape it up and toss in the trash and go get another one. I can fly fearless and try new crap without having to damage something that took hundreds of hours to make. The models look nice, cool to watch fly, but aren't for me. I have been flying toys for 15 years now. Still haven't built one.
I get that. Some people just like to enjoy the experience without the whole building hype. There's a freedom in flying ready-to-go planes without the pressure of building and perfection. It's nice to just try things out and not worry about wrecking something you spend ages on. Plus, 15 years in the hobby speaks volumes. You're doing it your way, and that's what counts.
I used to work in a photo lab, and this is definitely true. While we obviously had some pros who had top gear and took incredible photos, there are TON of people who think that just because they have a $3,000 camera, they're amazing, and are definitely not. We used to have this little old guy who came in about once a week, and someone had given him an iPhone which used to take pictures of flowers that he'd print 5x7 to use as reference for paintings, and his photos were honestly better than like 90% of the people who came in with fancy DSLRs. Smiley face.
That's interesting. I've seen it too. Some folks think having high-end gear makes them pros, but it often doesn't work that way. I remember a friend who had a simple camera but captured amazing candid shots. His timing and composition were just on point. It's really about the eye for detail rather than the equipment. Sometimes the simplest tools can create the best art.
I am a photographer, and I can't have a conversation with someone without being asked what kind of camera I use, which then prompts them to talk about their camera, lens, computer, etc., without ever actually talking about photography. It's like if writers got together and talked about nothing but pens. I like pens, but a fancy one won't help you write like Hemingway.
I get that. It's frustrating when people focus on gear instead of the art itself. I know a musician who faces the same thing, Everyone wants to know about their instruments instead of the music they create. It's like discussing the tools instead of the craft. Sure, good gear matters, but it's the vision and skill that really counts in the end.
That's funny because actual professionals don't care what gear you have. They use the best tools for the job because, well, it's their job. They won't care if you have the entry-level DSLR you got from Costco. They just want you to enjoy photography. It's the amateurs who will hate you if you don't have this or that lens.
That's true. I've seen it happen with a friend. He started taking photos with a basic camera and got some great shots. The pros in the community were supportive. But when he shared his work online, some amateurs bashed him for not using expensive gear. It was disappointing. Seems like the focus should be on the art, not the equipment.
I ran the derby for my kids' pack. Since I could, I made the decision that the kids make their cars with the rest of the pack. We would provide the tools and do the dangerous work for them. Everyone had a blast making their own, and everyone had an equal chance. Lots of kids from single-parent homes actually go to benefit.
That sounds like a solid way to involve the kids. It's nice seeing them work together and put in the effort. Giving them the chance to create their own cars really makes it special. It builds community, too. You'll find kids from different backgrounds coming together for something fun like that. Plus, it's good to see adults stepping in to help with the tougher stuff. Overall, seems like a win for everyone involved.
Down in Derby was a documentary, not a movie. Funny thing is, those wild dad-designed racers didn't always win. I won second place one year with a car I designed myself. Looked like a classic roadster. Only thing my dad did was make sure I didn't cut myself on a jigsaw. First place that year was a double-decker bus. The kid painted the whole block and rounded the corners. I won most creative a different year with a Humvee, made using washers for a hatch, tubular weights for a snorkel, an extra washer as a spare wheel on the back, and a plastic machine gun I stole off a G.I. Joe model at home.
That sounds like a solid memory. I remember building race cars for a similar event. I didn't win much, but I did get a few laughs with my designs. One time, I made a car out of an old shoebox and decorated it with stickers. Didn't win any awards, but everyone talked about how ridiculous it looked. Sometimes it's the fun of creating that sticks with you more than the winning.
Man, I have experienced this from both ends. On the one hand, I'm now firmly in the spend at least $300 on a bike you're going to ride any real quantity. Camp. It sometimes means a difference of tens of pounds between a Walmart special and an entry-level bike. It only gets worse when it also doesn't fit you and has been neglected. So between weight, poor rolling, and discomfort, someone starting out with all that isn't likely to keep doing it for long. I'd love to ride with my friends, but they don't understand why I can keep riding without feeling the burn. On the other hand, just ride a friggin' bike. If you're already firmly into the swing of riding, just get on the thing and ride. It's not beneath you unless you're at a competitive race, or maybe if you're out hardcore downhill mountain biking. If you're just out having a fun ride around town with your friends, pedal the dang thing and stop complaining.
I've been in that situation too. Starting out on a cheap bike can be rough. I remember trying to keep up with friends who had better bikes, and it was tough. The weight, the discomfort, it just made me want to quit. But eventually, I got a decent bike, and it changed everything. I just rode for fun. Sometimes it's best to not overthink it and just pedal. It's about enjoying the ride with friends.
I hate looking for a simple recipe online and having to scroll through some 30-something white woman's life story sprinkled with pictures of the food to get to the recipe. The comment sections on recipe sites are the worst also, full of people who think they're superior for using Malden sea salt and yellow tomatoes instead of red, or bullshit such as that. Edit. Okay, I get it. Malden salt is nice. I agree. It was an example.
I feel you on that. It's like you're just trying to make dinner but end up on a mini novel instead. Those long stories can be frustrating, especially when all you want is a straightforward recipe. And yeah, the comment sections can turn into a competition. People love to flex their fancy ingredients like it's a big deal. Sometimes basic is just what you need. Keep it simple.
I get this crap with cross-stitching. I don't stitch on anything under 40 count and exclusively use hand-dyed silk floss. Otherwise, why bother? The weird thing is, I've seen the exact opposite. Keep it simple, that's my motto. DMC cotton floss and 14 count white AITA. Otherwise, why bother? JFC, just stitch already.
It's funny how people get so caught up in their preferences. I had a friend who was super into brewing coffee. He wouldn't touch anything but single origin beans. Meanwhile, I was happy with basic instant coffee. We joked about it a lot. In the end, it just showed how different people enjoy the same hobby. Sometimes, you just gotta enjoy the process and not overthink it.
My mom is a master knitter, teaches knitting, and is a total yarn snob. I'm fairly poor, but feel this nagging sense of guilt every time I stop at the acrylic yarns in my local craft store because I could just hear her grumbling in the back of my head and telling me to buy real wool. I should just get a few skeins. It feels perfectly fine to me, and I hate hand washing anyway.
I totally get that. It's funny how our parents' voices stick with us. I remember feeling the same way about buying cheaper materials for projects. It's like they embed themselves in your brain. Sometimes, you just want to do what works for you, not worry about what someone else thinks. But that guilt can sneak in. At the end of the day, it's your project, right? Do what makes it fun for you.
Generally agree with you that many hikers are gear snobs, especially since hiking is essentially just walking. You don't need the latest and greatest gear to hike and have a good time, but you do need to have the knowledge and equipment to take care of yourself in the outdoors. I see lots of people who go out for a day hike in the mountains in early season, June, wearing shorts, a tank top, and flip-flops, and not carrying anything except a cell phone. You might not need much, but I think many people assume the mountains are like Disneyland and nothing can possibly go wrong. Think about the consequences of a broken ankle, getting lost, or a storm blowing in and bringing heavy rain or snow. You need at least a little extra clothing, some extra water and food, and it means to make shelter/fire at a bare minimum.
I get what you're saying. A friend of mine once went hiking in flip-flops, thinking it would be a chill day. Halfway through, he twisted his ankle and we had to crawl back. It was a reminder that just because you're outdoors doesn't mean you won't face challenges. Packing some essentials can really make a difference. It's not just about enjoying the scenery, it's about being smart, too.
To be fair, gear does get a lot more important when you get into overnight trips. Weight starts to matter a lot more when you gotta carry your stuff all day. A lot of the snobbery is from people who take ultralight too seriously. But really I find most hikers don't care too much beyond curiosity about what other people decided to bring. Hike your own hike and all that.
I remember my first overnight hike. I packed way too much gear, thinking I needed everything. The weight made it tough, and I learned quickly that less is more. Saw some people with tiny packs and wondered how they did it. It's all about what fits your style. You do you on the trail, and as long as you're out there enjoying it, that's what matters.
Yep, hiking is one of my favorite activities, and I usually get by without the stereotypical fully laden backpack. Another problem I've encountered is when people brag about hiking a certain trail or mountain. Yes, hiking part of the Pacific Crest Trail or climbing Mt. Whitney is a great achievement, but it doesn't make others wimps if they don't do it.
I get that. Hiking is cool, but it shouldn't be about proving who's tougher. One time, a friend kept talking about his epic climbs, while I just enjoyed local trails. Honestly, everyone hikes for their reasons. It's not a competition. I think just being out there, appreciating nature, is what matters most. No need to make others feel less about their experiences.
My friends and I all bought EDH decks and started playing together. Tons of fun was had. Then they all started really investing in their decks, spending way more money than I would be willing to for this game, and now my deck just isn't in the same tier. They stopped inviting me to the little EDH gatherings because my deck couldn't compete. You gotta pour some money into that if you want to keep up.
It's always tricky when a hobby gets competitive like that. I get it. You want to enjoy the game without feeling pressured to spend a lot. Sometimes friends get caught up and forget about the fun aspect. It is frustrating being left out, especially when you just want to hang out and play. Maybe it's time to find a more casual group or just play for the fun of it.
I play bass, and I've never really judged what other bassists play. It's like 80% plus Fenders anyway, so there's barely any variation. But I had one guy tell me if I tried out rSlash join his band, I'd have to play his P bass instead of my J bass, both Fenders, because the P bass was more genre appropriate. I kind of WTF'd at that.
That sounds like a weird situation. It's just bass, right? I mean, it's all about how you play, not really what you play. If you're comfortable with your gear, that should be enough. I guess some people take their band image a bit too seriously. Just play what you like and vibe with the music. At the end of the day, it's about making sound, not about the label on the headstock.
I was trying to get a band together with my friend. We invited this guy she knew, and I had gone on a date with to join up. He was boring as fuck, but he talked about guitars so much. He shows up with 4 guitars, a giant ass pedal thing, and spends way too long explaining all of it. We get to actually trying to play something, and he can't play. He doesn't know the chords. He doesn't know the notes. He knew everything you could know, but how to play. His one guitar was worth more than all of my instruments combined. We didn't invite him back.
Sounds like a classic case of style over substance. It's odd how people can know everything about music gear but can't actually play anything. You guys probably just wanted to jam and have fun, but he made it all about showing off. No one wants to deal with that kind of vibe. Sometimes it's better to stick with people who can actually play and enjoy the music instead of just talking about it.
Crosley uses a ceramic needle, which will wear down your vinyl. I bought a Project Carbon debut recently, and got some snide comment from a certain music subreddit about it. Sorry, I'm not dropping $2,000 on a record player. I love playing records, and the debut plays them well. It looks good in my living room. It sounds good to me. That's all I care about.
It's funny how people have strong opinions about gear. I remember when I got my first decent turntable. Friends gave me a hard time for not spending more. But like you said, it plays records, looks nice, and sounds great. At the end of the day, if you're enjoying it, that's what matters. Everyone has their own priorities.
Here's where you spend your money in sewing. Good scissors. A decent mid-range priced, non-Walmart sewing machine. Hell, if you can find a green tank used Kenmore, buy that bastard. I sew as a business costumes. Fabrics are depending on what need it fills. I don't care about designer fabrics. Quilters drive me insane.
Sounds like you've got a practical approach to sewing. Good scissors can really make a difference, and I get the appeal of a solid machine. I've seen people get obsessed with brands and trends, but at the end of the day, it's about how well it works for you. Costumes must be interesting to create. I guess the right fabric depends on the project, and not everyone gets that.
My main issue wasn't people being snobs about what you had, but rather just buying shit that was way better. I go and rent the run-of-the-mill gun. Then everyone else had fully automatic shit. They pretended it wasn't really automatic, but we all know what's up. It's not automatic, it's ramping. Okay, How is that different? I have to wiggle my finger. You're pulling the trigger for every shot? No, I wiggle my finger and it knows to shoot more. So, is shooting without you having to pull the trigger every time? Yes. How is that not automatic? Because it's ramping.
Sounds like a classic case of tech jealousy. You show up with your basic gear, and everyone else has these fancy upgrade toys. It just highlights the gap between those who go all out and those who stick to the basics. The whole ramping debate seems pretty pointless too. At the end of the day, if it shoots faster without much effort, it's kind of the same thing. Just a matter of who wants to sound cool about it.
Some people do tend to have a pretty elitist attitude when it comes to golf. If you're on a private course, I get it. You're paying a premium to keep the riffraff out. Can't really get mad at a public course though. Golf should be for everyone. The only thing that gets annoying to me on a golf course is slow players who won't let you play through. It's fine if you play slow, just don't slow everyone else down.
Yeah, I get that. Golf can be pretty chill, but some players act like they're the gatekeepers. It's just a game, after all. And the slow players? That's the worst. You just want to enjoy your round and get moving. It's all about having fun, not holding everyone up. Let people play at their own pace, but be mindful of others too. Simple enough, right?
I have random clubs picked up at garage sales, a bag I paid very little for, and one driver that was brand new I paid $40 for. I went and played with some friends, and one of the guys broke his driver. He paid $300 for on a tree because the piece of shit never hit straight. I've never been serious about golf. I'm in it to drink beer, drive a golf cart, and swing like I'm playing baseball. I've never gotten mad while playing and never will. Having fun is way more important than being the best golfer on a shitty course in Indiana.
Sounds like a chill day on the course. Picking up random clubs for cheap is the way to go. Your friend must have felt that pain when his driver broke. Golf can be frustrating, but it's all about enjoying the time with buddies. Driving the cart and just swinging it like baseball sounds way more fun than worrying about scores. Keeping it light makes a day on the course much better.
I broke my ties with a very close friend of mine because of this. I don't take pride in much, but I take pride in my art and what I can create. For my entire life, I've never really had much money. I couldn't afford the nicest rice paper to do a sumi painting with. I could never afford enough different types of India ink to mix and create my own. I've gotten by with the few supplies I had for as long as I had. I recently, in the past year and a half, got into digital art. The friend I cut ties with told me that I needed to have the newest version of Photoshop CS6 in order to make anything I can take pride in. Like I said before, that struck just the wrong nerve. I've never spoken another word to that person because of that.
It's tough when friends don't understand your journey. Art is personal, and it's not about the tools you use but what you create. I remember a time when someone criticized my sketchbook, saying I needed better materials. It felt dismissive, like they didn't see the effort behind it. Sometimes you just have to step away from people who don't support you. You're the one creating, so keep focusing on what matters to you.
I sail in northeast Oklahoma on Lake Aloga. A friend and I bought a boat together, a 1970 calories 25. Got a pretty good deal on it, less than $3K. There are several boats at the marina that are $150,000+ sailboats. We're constantly wondering who needs/want a boat like that on a not huge lake in Oklahoma. We sail more often, farther, and longer than anyone we see out there. So, I guess it's just status? To be fair, so far everyone we've met has been super friendly and not snobby, but we really haven't spent much time with anyone there, and certainly not around anyone with one of those crazy expensive yachts.
It sounds like your time on Lake Aloga has its own vibe. You and your friend got a solid deal with that Cal 25. It's interesting seeing those big yachts on a smaller lake. Maybe it is just status for some people. Your approach seems way more fun, sailing more often and enjoying the experience. It's nice to hear the marina folks are friendly. It's all about the journey, not the price tag.
Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed. Love.